And we are live. Welcome, everyone, to the Connected for Real podcast. I'm Rebbetzin Bat-Chen Grossman, and today with me is Millie. And the podcast episode is all about femininity and you. And we're going to get into that very soon. But let me just introduce the podcast, introduce myself, and then Millie will introduce herself. I'm Rebbetzin Bat-Chen Grossman. Some of you may know Rebbetzin is a rabbi's wife. And this podcast is all about the four pillars: God, marriage, business, and you, because I am obsessed with the intersection between marriage and business. And you can't talk about anything in my world without bringing God into it. So God is at the core. Marriage and business, we're finding flow and making sure that they work together. And then you are the container of all that. So today we're focusing on you and your ability to contain and to be and to hold and to grow and to create space and have more capacity for all this good stuff. And we're leaning into femininity. So, with all that being said, Millie, introduce yourself and tell everyone what you are all about.
So, hi. First of all, thanks for having me on this show. I'm very excited. My name is Millie Schweky. I'm a physical therapist specializing in pelvic floor dysfunction. So, I treat women across the lifespan from new brides all the way through pregnancy, postpartum, menopause, postmenopause, and beyond. So, very happy to be here.
That's exciting. So, when we were talking about what topic we wanted to pick, something about femininity like really excited you, made you like, ah, that's my topic. What was that?
Okay, so I'll tell you. There's been a shift in my life over the past couple of years that not only affected my life, but also the way that I treat my patients in the clinic. So I don't know what came over me. I have two kids, thank God. So my second is she just turned 2, and after she was born, like something in me just like totally shifted. I used to be a workaholic, like a 50 plus hours a week workaholic. It started before I had kids. I was actually pregnant and going through some like mental health stuff. And I was just like in hustle mode, go mode for so many years up until that point. So it only felt natural to just like keep going with it. Like I had this baby coming and I didn't know what to expect. And I didn't have any confidence that I was capable of being a mother or doing any of the things. And like there's a lot more to it, but that's the gist. And I really burnt myself out while I was pregnant. After I had him, I went back to work like way too quickly. I was just like always hustling. I was also facing postpartum depression and prenatally, like just all of the things. And it really affected my relationship with my son and my husband. And it just was a vibe. That was a good time. So something shifted like right. It was like it started right before my daughter was born. Like me and my husband were away, and I realized like when I go back to my real life, my reality, like that's not what I want to go back to. Like something needs to change.
Mhm.
And I woke up a little bit. I raised my prices. I dropped a bunch of clients that I just like didn't have time to take anymore. I referred them to other people. I was like, I have to like stay home at least one morning a week and be with my son. I need to have these boundaries. And I set them. But then when I had my daughter, I just took it to a whole new level. At that point, we moved to Israel. And I just took it upon myself to slow down. I was in overdrive. I was incredibly burnt out. And I just knew that I had a new opportunity. I had a new place. There could be new mazal. I'm starting a clinic from scratch. I had a booked out clinic in New York. I knew I was starting over. So I was like, I'm going to set the boundaries. And I was able to set real boundaries and real hours. And the reason why the topic of femininity spoke to me is because, first of all, just being in touch with the fact that I was in go mode, like was big just to even like notice it. I think so many people could go their whole lives without realizing it that they need to slow down. And then it opens up this whole portal of a world for me where I just discovered getting in touch with myself, getting in touch with my cycle, slowing down, and just learning how to listen and then imparting it on my patients, because now when I see them, I see myself in that mode, and I understand how to communicate with them and make them feel safe to slow down. I think a lot of the times when we don't feel like we can slow down, it's a trauma response to something or another.
Right. Oh, yes. There's so many things you said that I'm like, yes, 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 yes. So, I teach about awakening your authentic self, like really leaning into it and being okay with being yourself fully. And I think one of the biggest things is that shift between the go, 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 and that's very masculine energy versus like the feminine, slow down, be in the moment, allow it to be, everything's okay, and trusting. So much trusting my body that it's capable, trusting God, trusting myself, and, just my ability to think about things differently and find solutions and think creatively. Like all the things that happen when you slow down are such gifts. I love it so much. I love it so much. What is what is something that a listener right now needs to hear about this topic?
One of the biggest things I'm learning is when you're in your feminine energy, you have more flow, more intuition, more creativity, and it's very easy to ignore. And I think the first step to getting there, from what I see in myself and in the clinic, is that you're safe in your body. And I think something that keeps us grinding and in that mode is not feeling safe in our body, because what's going to happen if we slow down? Am I worthy enough to slow down? Like what am I worth if I'm not producing, if I'm not doing anything? And that's such a masculine way to think. So if I had one thing to say, it would be that you are safe in your body.
Yes. Yes. Ah, safety is such a huge thing. Such a huge thing. Something, my specialty is marriage. I like to bring business into it and all of the fun things that happen around marriage, but like marriage is such a huge thing, and the main basis is safety, right? We want to bring safety into our homes, into the atmosphere, the children, the husband, everybody needs to feel safe. That's what a home is. But like it starts with you. It starts with you feeling safe in your own body, in your own being. And like you were saying, go, go, go feels like, hiding, masking. I'm just going to get the approval from outside, external. Everything we do, I think of myself for all the years in the beginning where, everybody like normal, everybody wants to fit in and wants to produce and wants to be worthy of, being in this company or being in this world. I think of all of the things that I did that I no longer do, like the little things, you know. I just told you like one of the things in my day built in for the last, like, I don't know, maybe 3-4 years has been to take a nap every single day or as many days as possible. I do skip some days because of life, but I really try as much as I can to slow down in the middle of the day to like get a restart, because I found that if not, I'm doing it anyway, right? So in the old me would sit on the couch, scroll, or just like, veg, or be like, oh, I'm too tired to do anything, but I'm not actually resting, but I'm not doing anything. But like I wasn't giving myself
Dissociating.
yeah, I was not giving myself permission to rest. And my husband would be like, so are you gonna rest? And I was like, no, I can't, the kids, the this, the that. I had all the reasons in the world until it hit me that I'm not actually resting when I'm quote unquote resting. And I it's not only hurting me, but it's hurting everyone else because I'm teaching them that they're not worthy of taking a break. I am showing them that it's okay to veg and just be on the phone or whatever, like as an okay way to escape. Like all the things. It was just so not working. And it's like in the moment, this whole thing started when my daughter turned 14. Now she's 18, and she gave me a blessing that I should get a nap every day. And I felt really embarrassed. I was like, "What? No, that's so much. That's like too much for me." Like, I don't know, it just feels so wrong. I'm just going to say it's exactly what felt like it's coming out of me to say, like, it just felt so wrong. It felt like I'm not supposed to take a nap. I'm not supposed to be running a household. At the time I had 6 kids. Now I'm up to 8. Thank God. Right? It's like I'm not supposed to be in charge of all these people and have a business and doing a million other things that, for my own sanity, like art and exercise and whatever. And like, and also nap. Like, who does that? Right? Like,
It's
who
like
does that?
it's like a luxury also.
For sure. That's what I thought. And I don't deserve a luxury like that. It's for people who, I don't know, not me. Right? It's like those people in my head. There's like those people and me. And it wasn't me. It's so funny now to think about because I turned into those people, like the people who are more organized and know and expect and like have a structure and whatever. I wasn't like that. And it's really interesting to see how the identity shifts when you're willing to lean into your authentic self. And in that is the femininity, right? Because it's just who you are.
Wow. It as you talk, I'm just like thinking about how if like someone told me to take a nap in the middle of the day, I'd be like, no, like there's so much to get done. And it's like still hard for me. And I've been on this journey for like 2 years now. It's just the beginning. I didn't even like scratch the surface yet, but I'm like, I can't nap. Like and my husband takes a nap every day. God bless him. Takes a nap for like 20 minutes a day. He wakes up amazing, gets so much done afterwards.
Exactly.
And I look at him and I'm like, I used to look at him and be like, who do you think you are? Like napping. But now I see that like it really changes the rest of his day. It's like really, and I'm not even like holding myself back from saying he's napping and it's productive. Like the whole point is that it's not.
It is. It's
Because
so amazing, but like it totally is productive.
it is, but like I'm trying to look at it as like you're slowing down. Like it's conducive to be more productive later because it's, helping you have more energy for later. And like I don't want to look at it as productive because the whole point is like you don't need to be producing every second of your life. Like, you could just be
Can you
sometimes.
imagine what happens in your brain when you nap? It is the most productive time. First of all, when you sleep, you're growing, right? And your brain is organizing the entire everything that happened that day. And your memory stored and all the things are just processed. People who don't sleep
But
end
you're
up
not actually producing. You're taking the step back so that it's like planting a seed for later, but it's
right.
like very minimal effort. I mean, to me it sounds like a lot of effort to like actually like put everything away and lie down, but my point is like you're it's I don't want to look at napping as something productive. I want to look at it as taking a step back, slowing down so that you can keep going.
Right. And that's exactly what it is. But I'm saying, even in that slowdown, there's so much going on behind the scenes. And that's the magic is when you slow down and stop doing everything, like when you stop controlling, and it's all about control, right?
Control.
Because when you let go of control, everything starts to just flow. Everything, and your brain is organizing and, mapping out and doing the thing. And then you have more energy for later. just mental energy, the capacity to be present later, right? Like the reason why my daughter gave me that blessing and I said, "No way, that's not me." And she looked at me and she said, "But then we get a better mother." Like we appreciate it. It's not about you, it's about us. We see it. We see the difference. And it is just mind blowing, right? And my first four are all girls. So I have like four teenagers now. It's amazing for me to see how they're experiencing life differently because I've been going through this journey, right? Like for the last, I don't know, 7 years, I've completely pivoted my business, my life, everything's just been so awesome. And they're experiencing it through their process, right? Because it's contagious.
Of course, yeah. It's so funny, like, when moms have, kids across, like, a bunch of years, it's like the older kids and the younger kids have 2 different moms.
For sure. We call them different generations,
Yeah,
right?
like yeah.
It's
Or people
totally
call them, like, their sets of kids, like, I have my older set of kids and my younger set of kids.
yeah, yeah. And it's so funny. My youngest is 10 months and my oldest is
Wow.
18.
Yeah,
So
so it's really
it's
2 generations.
it's totally generations. It's their experiences as children are so different because the older ones did not have phones. Like they didn't even we didn't have phones when they were babies, right?
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
it's hard to believe, right?
Yeah.
18 years ago, who had a phone? And if you had a phone, it was one of those like dinky
It was
Nokias.
a flip phone, yeah.
It was the brick. If you guys know what the brick is, please go into the chat and say yes. It's so yeah, like I just dated myself. Um, but you guys all know how old I am because I celebrated my 40th birthday this year and I sent out a bunch of like emails about it. Um, so yeah, that's funny. Um, they had different experiences just by the fact that they grew up in a different world.
But also
Oh,
they had a different mother, like, you've evolved,
for sure.
and
For
and
sure.
it's just very cool, like, I heard someone say the other day, like, people say they would die for their child, but, like, dying's easy, you don't have to do anything, but, like, would you live for your child? Like, would you change? Would you go to therapy? Would you change your habits, change the way you think, change the way you speak? Like,
Mm.
that's love.
Ah, I love that. I love that. That is so real. And, they say the same thing about dying for God's sake versus living for God's sake. Like, it really is. Um, when you said that, it made me think of living in Israel. You know, I was just at the center for, they have like this center for small businesses here, and it's young small businesses, right? So it's like very cute. So I was talking to the woman who's in charge of all of the people who made Aliyah, like at any time throughout the years. Like it doesn't matter if you just came to Israel or if you're here 20 years. She's trying to find their needs and really serve this section of the community. And we were talking about how difficult it is, even after so many years, and how in the beginning you have all this, hype about like, oh, you're new here. Oh, let me help you. Let me support you. Let me chat. Let me, like whatever, hold your kids. Like people are so nice and it's awesome. And also, you're sort of ready mentally that things are going to be semi hard. Like, you're going to not have your family around or, whatever. But like, then the year after, and you're like, oh, I'm still alone. I still don't have my family around. It's still hard. When is it going to get easy? And then the third year is like, it's not getting any easier. What's going on? You know? And then someone said that when you move, like do make such a move, even if it's, people who moved to America in those years, like way back when America was that like, wow, golden land, like where we have opportunities. The people themselves did not do it for themselves. They did it for their kids, right? Like, you come here, you're like, maybe I'm going to always have an accent, or maybe I'm always going to have the hardships, but my kids are going to be one of every, like, they're going to belong. They're going to be like everyone else. And
I'm so
that's,
jealous of my kids' childhood here.
yes, childhood here is so good.
I look at them and I'm like, you're so lucky.
You are. And you're growing such muscle, right? Like the inner muscle of being able to hold two realities. Whereas like I'm a kid and I'm having so much fun and I'm doing all these things. And also I live in Israel and like we're under attack and like there's all this talk all the time about things that are hard and finding a way to
But these kids, like
play with
my
that.
also especially like my kids when we moved, they were 2 years old, like and 5 months. So they're like built different. Like they already lived through 18 months of war
Yeah.
and they don't even know it. Like they're just built different. They
Yeah.
had to deal with all the repercussions of that. Without it's incredible.
Yeah, so I'm saying it's an inner muscle and you end up falling back on that. We're like, okay, we've gone through a lot. We can get through this too because you just have this inner trust.
Yeah.
Which brings us back to the safety.
The safety, the trust. It's really hard. Letting go is a lot of the hard part. I think I mean, listen, I'm thinking about it in terms of like chronology. Like, I think you have to let go first, and then you could feel safe. I think if you try to feel safe first, you'll never let go. If that makes sense.
Mm, that's so interesting. I went to a class once and she said, and I realized I was holding on so tight and I was in so much control and like, yeah, I just couldn't. I was too much like this. So she took her hands and her fists were like very tight. She says, I looked out the window, I took a deep breath, and I opened up my hands and let go and let God take it over. Right. And then I opened up my hands and I just felt so free and so safe and whatever.
I wish
And
it
so
was that easy.
I know. And I went home and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And I'm all excited and I'm putting my hands and I'm like tight, tight, tight. And I'm like thinking, okay, God, I'm gonna let go. And I open up my eyes and I'm still super tight. My fists are like tighter than ever. And I'm like, okay, that didn't work. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna take a deep breath and I'm going to take it and like let it go. And I'm like, and my fists don't open and I just realized how tight I'm holding it and how not easy it is to just let it go. It's such work.
It's such hard work. I did this exercise with someone once. I work with like an energy practitioner, and we did this exercise where I was like holding on to something, and we realized it wasn't mine. Like it was someone else's baggage. And we did this exercise where I was like standing at the top of a mountain with my eyes closed. Well, no, sorry. I was closing my eyes. I was picturing myself at the top of a mountain with these two suitcases that didn't belong to me. They belonged to like my two of my ancestors. And I'm like holding them and I'm like closing my eyes, just like, okay, now throw the suitcases off the mountain. And like I literally the first few times I did it, I closed my eyes. I saw the suitcases like go down and then come right back up to me.
That's
And like I
insane.
couldn't let go. And you know what? Once I practiced enough times and I fully was able to let the baggage that did not belong to me go, I was actually able to work through what we were working on. And
Right.
it was like really incredible. And sometimes when I see those pesky symptoms come up, I like have to reclose my eyes and throw away my suitcase again. I mean, the suitcase that's not mine again. And like sometimes it still comes back up. It's like really hard to let go. Like our brain doesn't even want to put a metaphor to it.
Right. Yeah. It's because that's the safety that we were used to.
It's like the old patterns also. Like we love the old patterns because they're so familiar and all they do is keep us stuck if they're not healthy. But like they feel safe to us even if they're toxic because it's just so familiar. You know what to expect, even though it's pretty much subconscious at that point.
Right.
But you're scared to change it up.
Of course. It reminds me, I have women who come and tell me their husbands are always miserable. And it's like, I just want him to be happy. And I said to him, but he's happy being miserable. Like, this is his comfort zone. He knows how to complain. He knows how to walk around the house and get this like, ah, you know, that's what he knows. That's what he grew up with. Those are the sounds that make him feel at home. So if he doesn't have that safety, what do you want from him? He's creating it. And
But why
it's just,
not? But why
he
not
knows.
challenge that? Why not challenge that
Of
in your
course you can
spouse?
challenge it,
Yeah,
but I want him to be happy. He's not happy. It's like, how do you know? You don't know. Just because
right.
he's doing these things does not mean he's not happy. It could be that he's totally happy. Sometimes I tell my husband, like, "Don't freak out so much." And he's like, "Check my pulse. I'm not freaking out at all. I'm the chillest guy ever." So I'm like, "So why are you so annoyed about this?" He's like, "I just think it's annoying, but I'm not freaked out." Like, he has different parameters for,
Barometers, yeah.
yeah, like, for what I think I would react or how I am reading the situation. So, a lot of times we have these, like, backwards safety mechanisms that are counterintuitive, and it's just how our brain figured out safety. Of
And
course,
it's
then
really, really hard work to break these old patterns. It is like a full-time job to break these patterns.
so I want to challenge that. I wanna challenge that
I would
because you're
love
like,
to I would love make me think differently. I'm very open to it.
"Yeah? Okay." So, oh, this is so much fun. Um, when I said to you, "This is just how he is," and you're like, "Let's challenge that." Of course, we're going to challenge that, but not by changing him, right? We need
No.
to figure out a different way that actually works because I can't control him. I can only control my safety and myself. Once I create safety, then I unhook from him having to be happy. I could just be happy because I'm happy, even when everyone is miserable around me,
And then you'll
right?
see the energy that you're kind of putting out there is bouncing off of him, and he might be a little bit less grumpy because he's just
Not
feeling your vibration change.
Not only that, but because okay, this is so fun because you don't know a lot of my work, so I get to, like, preach around here. So imagine you walk into the house and there's a mirror, and the mirror is showing you that there is a stain on your shirt. So what do you go right away to do?
Go clean
You
it off.
clean off the mirror, it doesn't come off. You scrub the mirror, it doesn't come off. You like spray and, I don't know what, you bring all the bleach, everything, nothing comes off the mirror. And you get really annoyed. You start screaming at the mirror, nothing. As soon as you clean up your own shirt, what happens to the mirror? Mirror's clean. Oh, look at that. And now you go to a different mirror, and that mirror is clean too, surprisingly. Like, somehow all mirrors are now clean just because you did one action, which was clean your shirt.
Mhm.
So we are the center of our reality, and we keep bumping into things and people that create mirrors for us to see what we have to work on.
This is the journey I've been on, just so you know. So I'm not familiar with your specific work, but I'm familiar with this
Of
concept.
course, I
So,
didn't create, I didn't invent anything. I've been on this journey too.
yeah.
And I love this analogy because it makes it so clear. When you work on your part, like, my husband is, I don't know, unhappy. I need him to be happy. Wait, I am dependent on his happiness. There's something codependent here. It's not healthy.
Mhm.
So I will now create my own safety and my own happiness, and I will lean into that. Not because I don't need him, right? Some people are like, okay, well, now I'm happy. I don't need my husband anymore. Chuck, no, please don't do that, right? like, like, it reminds me of Marie Kondo. A lot of people were getting divorced after they decluttered their whole house because they realized he doesn't bring joy. It's like, I don't need him. And it was really bad. It was so bad. Like, people were really like, stop. Anyway, it was like a very interesting, and because I'm all into marriage, like, I was really on top of that. Um, but anyway, so it's not because I don't need him that I'm going to be happy. It's I am happy because I get to be happy no matter what. And I love him the way he is. when you do that, you suddenly create no need for him to be unhappy anymore, because he was just being unhappy for you to notice that you were in this pattern. And so as soon as you let go, you basically unhooked from his need to be unhappy. There's something that just the way God created the world, it's like magical that he just joins you. Like, oh, now that you've found your safety, I can now join you in my safety. And now we're like, a completely different couple. And this is what I do all the time. It's like in 3 months, women are coming in crying and walking out all like, oh my gosh, how did you do that? Like, so fun. Right. And that's why I do what I do, because it's just, I couldn't run away from it. Thank God. So let's talk about what you brought up, which was the reason why I was like all excited. You
Yeah.
said it's hard work.
I think it is. Yeah. I think,
And
I mean, I'm talking from personal experience also, but tell me what you're going to say.
one of the biggest things is that we end up tasting this understanding that it's all about me, and I need to change, and I need to take responsibility, and I need to transform, and if I can just better myself, heal, let go, blah, 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 then the things will change, or then, everybody around me will sort of come and join me. And so we end up taking a lot of responsibility for things that are not necessary. We also end up going into control mode, because, like, oh, all I need to do to fix this is fix myself. Let me go fix myself. And so, like, we go from fixing myself to fixing myself to fixing myself. It's like this, like, hamster wheel that never ends. And our life looks like a roller coaster, because we're like, woohoo, I'm up here. And then we go back down. We're like, I'm back down here. How do I do this again? And then we're like, woohoo. And so we're constantly having highs and lows, and it's just not sustainable. So it's exhausting, and it feels like I just can't do this anymore. Forget about this whole inner work stuff. I'm just going to stay, down in the dumps and be happy.
It's crazy. I was just with a friend today and I was telling her, like, I'm on this stupid healing journey and I'm so burned out. I'm
Yeah.
so burned out. Like, I'm going away with my husband next week. Thank God. I'm like, I need a break. I can't do it anymore. Like, I'm working on myself so much and I just want to not be self aware for a minute.
Exactly. Exactly. So in my journey, I'll tell you a little bit of my story. I was a graphic designer for 15 years. I went to Pratt Institute in New York, and I worked on Fifth Avenue, and I was like type A. I need to be perfect in everything and do the whole thing and whatever. Of course, I also, got married and was supporting my husband, and he was learning and became a rabbi and blah, blah, blah. Like, and I was pregnant, like, right away. Like, I was doing it all. And it's sustainable as long as you're excited about it. And then you start getting tired and you're like, why am I doing this all? Right? Like, it really hits you. So, where was I going with this? Oh,
That you're going to give me the secret sauce about how it doesn't have to be
the
exhausting
secret sauce, the 4
because I'm
steps. Okay.
waiting. I'm going to write it
Yeah.
down.
So I was at a conference, and as a graphic designer, looking for more clients, more work, more networking, more stuff. And at the table were all these amazing women who had families and had businesses and wanted to do the same, grow, get more clients, create networks, become friends. And I said, so what's your goal? And she's like, my goal is to make just enough, like, that I have enough, but not enough that it will, like, throw me off. Right. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then the next person was like, yeah, I want to make more money, but not too much, because I don't want it to, like, break my family. And one after the other, it was so clear that we are all holding ourselves back. Could you imagine guys at a conference sitting around being like, "Oh, I just want to make enough." Like,
Yeah.
no.
But, like,
Who
why
does
would
that?
someone limit themselves like that? Or, like, I don't know. It's just, like,
Because
too
because if
prescriptive.
I make too much, it means I'm working too hard, and I'm a mother and I want to be home with my kids. And if I make too much, it means that I am not taking care of other parts of my life. Like it didn't
Right.
feel doable, right? Like in that mindset of, mothering and wifing comes first, and my business is here to support me, and therefore it has to stay as small as it needs to be or as big as it needs to be, like in this perfect size to sustain but not break.
Right. It's
And
also like a lot of control there. Like it has
yeah,
to be just right.
exactly. And you work so hard to not make enough, like to not really break through because you're not allowed to. And I got so annoyed. I realized I was doing the same thing. I am trying to grow my business. I want bigger clients. I want more money. I want to work less. Like I have all these dreams, but I also believe that my husband's holding me back, like that my family's holding me back. Like I want my family to be first. And so I really wasn't willing to pay the price. Also, I don't know, it was, 7 years ago, there was a big uptick of people getting divorced because they made it. It was like that, like, "Oh, look at that. I made it to 6 figures. I made it to 1,000,000, and then I got divorced." It was like, "Ah, why?" It was like I was very sensitive to it, and I suddenly realized just awareness, like you were saying before, awareness. The entire table's all saying the same thing in different words. And I come home and my husband, he doesn't really care about like all this businessy stuff. He's such a rabbi brain, like very, he's very, he's very fun, but not about all these like blah blah. So I start telling him because, I'm excited about telling him. So he'll listen because he's a nice husband. So I'm telling him about all these people I met and all this. It was so much fun and whatever. And you know what I noticed? What I realized? That you're holding me back. That's what I said. I realized you're holding me back. Now he's brushing his teeth. Suddenly he's like, huh? And he's continuing to brush his teeth, listening to me, giving him a whole rant about how he's the one who's going to be jealous when I make more money because he's da, 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 and it's going to make him feel worse because he's not, and he's a loser and he can't figure it out. And because of that, blah, 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 blah. And like I'm going on and on and on and on. And he's just like he's such a good husband. I give him so much credit for being so cool. You're like, what? Like, what are you saying? And then after I got it all out, he's like, is that even true? And I'm so grateful that he asked. I was like, I don't know, is it? And he said, no, if you make more money, I'll be so happy for you. And I'll be so happy for me because your money is my money. Like, why would you hold it back? And I was like, oh, he's right. Huh. Like it never occurred to me. I was so stuck on my story that he was going to be jealous that I didn't give it a second thought. It was just this loop in my head. So
How'd you
I
break it?
I broke it. I broke it. I went through a whole journey. I basically like mastered the work by Byron Katie. Do you know that?
No,
The
tell me
work?
about it. It sounds
Oh,
very familiar.
yeah. She has this like worksheet that's 6
Oh,
questions.
the work. It's called The Work.
The
Yes,
work.
I'm familiar with that. Yes.
So I became the master. Like I watched every single video possible and I watched her teaching it and I watched other people doing it and I just like I wanted to know everything about it, but I was not willing to do it because I knew as soon as I asked the questions, I'm going to find things and it was so scary. But that was one really big piece that helped me go over the edge. And another thing was that I started, like I told you, leaning into the real me. Like, wait, I'm doing all this graphic design work. What do I really love about it? Can I tweak what I'm doing? It's like, I like, oh, and then there was the Sparketype test. There's something called Sparketype, SPARKETYPE dot com. And it's a quiz. And you just take this quiz. It's a little annoying because it's repetitive. It's trying to get to the bottom of it, but like it helps you
Right.
find what sparks you. And when I realized that my Sparketype is I'm an advisor and a sage. So that means I advise, like I live to give people advice. This is my life. I get so excited. Just come and talk to me and tell me that you need help. And I'll be like, yes, yes, please. Right. Because it is what I live for. And I teach, my secondary is I teach in order to get people to ask me for advice. Like
Mhm.
I'm doing this podcast. I'm having so much fun. Like it's all so that people be like, yes, that's the thing. I need to ask you about this.
Yeah.
Please. Like anytime anybody is listening to the podcast and like has a question, send it my way. I will happily answer it because I love specific detail. Like I love getting into your unique situation and getting that personal touch, right? So that's my thing. So when I realized that, I'm like, why am I doing the actual graphic design work? I should just be meeting with people and helping them solve the actual thing. And then so I sort of leaned away from the actual graphic design and decided to just do the advising. Like I'll be the art director type thing. Like I'll give you the advice and then go have someone else do it, but like just pay me for the direction. And that was really cool. By that point, I already broke through and my husband started like making all the food. Basically, I told him that one of the things that was really hard for me was meal plans uh, because do I need to explain? As
Eight
thinking.
kids, the amount I meal prep for a week is not even gonna feed your family for a night. Like, I don't understand. You need
Yes,
to
I know. Exactly. It's like you're constantly making food. So I just like I was burning food. I was not having it on time. Everything was going wrong. Like things were just not working. So I said, "Can you take this off my plate so I can focus?" And he was like, "Sure. Why didn't you ask?" And I was like, "I didn't know I can." Right? I didn't give myself permission to be helped. And that's, part of that control thing. So my husband suddenly was on my team. He was supporting me instead of being against me and working against what I was doing, which was really annoying because I was going uphill all the time. Suddenly I had my entire life changed. And my friends noticed this because my husband is a certain way. He's like so awesome. And they notice the shift. It's easy to see when a guy is very like, "What are you doing? What's going on?" Blah blah blah. Like he was very like that, and then suddenly he's still like that, but in a softer, more helpful way, supportive, team player, like that. I had a partner, and it felt so good. And my friend started asking me, like, "What did you just do? What just happened? Like, what did you?" And I told them, "Remember our conversation? This is what led to it. I broke through. I got a gigantic client. I let go of a bunch of small clients. I broke through in my business. And not only did I not break my marriage, I made it so much better." And so they all said, "You have to sit down and reverse engineer what you did because we
Yeah,
want to know."
seriously.
That's what I did. So I reverse engineered it and I came up with the 4 steps to creating flow. You ready?
Let's go.
It's called the CALM method. CALM. Okay. C, connect to yourself. And this is the femininity part. It's like we're talking about it. Connect to yourself. We have been conditioned to take everyone else's opinions, things, shoulds, whatever's noise and make that more important than what is coming from inside, right? The people pleasing, the making sure, like we have antennas as women. We have antennas picking up what everybody is thinking and believing. We have antennas for the vibe in the room. We have the ability to pick up on all this noise all the time. So
Intuition. That's the intuition.
that is what we think is intuition, but
Is it
really,
not?
intuition is so much deeper. Is when you turn off that noise that you're
Hmm.
able to hear intuition.
Interesting. So you're saying that naturally as women, we're more sensitive to our surroundings and we could kind of like tune into what's going on. But when we don't listen to that, and we tune into something
No,
else, that's our intuition.
the the outside noises that we pick up so easily
Mhm.
are the way we tune out.
Okay. Is that's the way we tune out our intuition.
Exactly. And
Interesting.
because it gets praised, "Oh, you're such a good girl. You noticed that I needed a drink. Oh, you're so wonderful that you see that we're all in a bad mood and you can bring in more energy. Oh, I love your positivity. Oh, you're so great." So we get points for being quote unquote good,
Interesting.
because we have antennas to pick up everybody else's stuff. So what happens is that instead of investing my time and energy and attention on what's going on inside me, I'm investing all of my energy on everyone else's needs and wants and
Okay.
shoulds and shouldn'ts. And I'm giving that a lot of weight. And that is why it's so hard to be authentic, because the authentic me is actually sometimes the exact opposite. You could be a very positive, outgoing person that's very happy and go lucky and just like with the flow, but really that's a mask. And it's really scary to go behind the mask and see, oh, I'm actually not as happy as I thought. And I'm actually having negative feelings about this. Or I don't actually want to go along with this. And what am I doing? And how do I do? And how do I say no? And am I allowed to say no? It's like there's a lot that comes up when I say connect to yourself. People are like, I can't. I don't even know what I want. I don't know what is important to me. I don't know who I really am because I've been doing this for so long. And can you imagine the women? I love working with 50s and 60s because they're at the point where they're ready, they're done. Like, they got to the point where they're like, "I am done with this whole, like, trying to appease everybody else. I just want to live." And they're like, "For 60 years, I've been doing this. For 50 years, I've been feeding everyone and making sure everybody's okay and making sure
Is
everybody's
it
happy."
like their first awakening, or is it like they've had awakenings along the way and now they're just like ready to break through and level up again?
Exactly. Most people have had many many awakenings. And the readiness to break through is like, I like what you were saying. It's just hard work. Every time I want to have an awakening, I need to go through this whole breakdown. Every time I want to feel better about something, I need to like
Is that
break
not just the
and
reality that
no,
whenever there's a high or there's a low after? That's not, we don't have to be like that.
it doesn't have to be like that. No. And it comes from lowering the volume on everyone else's opinions and everybody else's noise
Yeah.
and just the world, culture, everything, and going inward and deep down in your stomach, somewhere in your heart, right in that space, there is truth and it's what you really want.
It's whatever, I'll comment after, I wanna hear the rest of what you have to say.
You can comment.
I'm just listening because when you said, like, we have antennas, I'm like, that doesn't resonate with me at all. I think I used to have antennas and it just never felt right to me. Like, I was like, I don't wanna stifle myself for anyone. And anyone that knows me in real life knows that I really do beat to my own drum. Like, I don't follow, whatever the norm is. Like, in my community, people don't move to Israel. In my community, people don't do a lot of the things and say a lot of the things that I say on the internet. And I just like, I don't care. I'm living for me. And I guess that is, I don't like, would you say
Yeah,
that's like I'm living more authentically, more intuitively, but like what at first when you said about the antennas that we're like in tune with what's going on with other people, I was like, wait, but I don't really have that skill. So I'm like now wondering like, what is that? Like, should I have more of that?
I think you have it and you've learned how to balance it. Okay, so like you're at you where you're at, you've gone through a lot of the work already.
Yeah.
And so there's like a little bit of a balance there. Maybe you don't give as much weight to the outside antenna stuff, but you
Yeah. I don't
definitely
give
have
weight
it.
to it.
You definitely have it. Like when you walk
Right.
into a room, you know what's going on. If somebody was fighting right before, you would pick it up.
Right. Right.
Okay. Like even if they're not fighting anymore, if their faces are a certain way, if they're looking at each other a certain way, you would know, you would pick it up. But, not, it's a very feminine trait.
Right.
And it's sometimes is like goes over people's heads when they're not in that
In their
antenna.
feminine or yeah.
Exactly. And by the way, men can have the ability to pick up if they
Of
just slow down
course.
and listened, right?
I mean, the way it works is that men have feminine energy too, and it's just like learning how to dance between them.
Right, exactly. So, okay, so connect to yourself is step 1. You got to
Okay.
know what you want. You have to know what you want. And then step 2 is ask for abundance. Ask God, bring God in. Because the first thing that happens when you get really, really silent and you say, "Oh, what I really want is this unattainable, crazy idea that I have no idea how to reach, and there is no way in heaven that this thing is happening. And so I'm just not going to want it because I'm just going to get disappointed." There is a protective mechanism that comes right away when I say, "I want that. No, I can't want that. No, I don't want that. That's impossible." Right? So it's impossible for me because I am limited. But here's the next step: ask God, bring him into the conversation.
When you limit yourself, you're limiting God because God could do anything. So if you actually believe that, then you wouldn't be limiting yourself.
Exactly. Beautifully, beautifully said. So now, when people say, "Yeah, but what I want may not be God's will," don't worry, you'll find out very soon. But
Yeah.
it's not really very often when you quiet the noise, and it's not what everyone else says, like, "Oh, you should reach 6 figures, you should go for 1 million, you should," everybody should be like on a beach with their feet up on their computer or whatever, right? Like, there are things that everyone else might want, but that's not your want. And when you slow down and get really clear on what you want, you are very good at knowing what you want. But this is a skill because you have to be willing to want, right? And that it's
Right.
hard. It's hard to let ourselves want. Bringing God into it is so freeing because of the understanding that that want was put there by God. It is the first crumb in a bunch of crumbs now that are going to be taking you in the right direction. So it's not an external will, like, "Oh, I have this thing I want." It's an internal will that God put in there so that you follow it. And so sometimes, when I was going to open up a podcast, I said, "Who am I to do this thing?" And the answer in my journal from my inner self was, "Who are you not to do this? God put you here to do this thing, and you're sitting around going, 'Who am I?' Well, who are you to think you're not?"
It's a shame when people don't use their gifts. Like if it's given to you,
Of
you
course it
gotta
is,
use it. You're doing a disservice to everyone. It's like a really big deal to just
but
let
it
that go.
takes. Oh, I'm losing power. 1 second. Let's see if it works. I'm going to see. Hopefully, this will work. Sorry. Okay, it worked. Um, did you? Oh, you said it's a shame that people don't use their gifts.
It's like if you
It
have a
is.
gift, you gotta use it. If you have a message to spread, then you use your platform or create a platform to do it.
Yes. And that's why you're doing your thing and I'm doing my thing because
Yeah.
we're leaning into that. But before you do it, there's always that hump of so scary, so big,
It's
overwhelming.
funny. I was talking about this with someone today also, like, whatever, I had a nice lunch date with my friend, and I was telling her, like, "Listen, I really wanted to create a podcast for a long time, and, like, I just never did it because I felt like it was coming from the place of, like, I just wanna hear myself talk." And I was like, "I don't want it to come from that kind of place." Like, I'm waiting until I've arrived at a place where it's just coming from, "I have good information. I'm gonna create the resources to, like, bring it out to people." And when it's a little bit less self-centered and, like, a little, like, yucky, like, that's when I'll that's when I'll do it. And like, remember, the time has come. So,
Yeah.
um, you just have to, like, balance it a little bit.
For sure, for sure. But that's the thing. It's like awareness. I'm aware right now is not the right time. I'm not coming from a good energy. I need to really center myself. Okay, what do I really want? I want to be centered. Okay, God help me center. Help me know when the right time is.
Exactly. That was basically the
So,
process so far.
yeah, exactly. So connect to yourself, ask for abundance. and then listen for the answer. God speaks
Wait, what's
back.
the A? Connect to self,
Ask.
abundance. Oh, listen. Wait, so what's the M? We didn't get to M yet.
Ah,
Oh, we
we
didn't get
didn't
to
get
M.
the
Okay,
M.
Ella's listen. Ella sounded like a great finale. Like, listen for the answer. That sounded like a great. So let's see what comes
You
next.
said the most wonderful thing just now. Could we just pause here and be like, ta-da? Because that is exactly why M exists. M is master a higher level of consciousness. And that is the answer to how to make it feel less hard.
Uh-huh.
Because if you see L as the grand finale, you are going to be living in the highs and lows, in the roller coaster of life. I have highs, I have lows. I listen for the answer and I go, next. What's next?
Interesting. Okay, so then you have to master living on a higher level of consciousness. This is a phrase that I've been saying for the past year and change, and no one knows what I'm talking about.
A higher level of consciousness?
Yeah, because after my awakening of slowing down and stepping into this whole new side of myself, the only way I could describe it is that I'm living at a higher level of consciousness. I mean, we're like, what does that mean? And I'm like, I just see the world so differently. Like nothing is the same.
Nothing is the same. And you know who coined it is so funny because my husband calls it like podcasty term because it's so like new agey, but
It's very trendy.
it's actually so beautifully said in The Path to the Just.
Mm.
The Path
Oh, quoi
of
ça
the Just,
fait?
Mesilat Yesharim.
Oh, Miss Laisha, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, the Ramchal created a 10-step process to reaching, was it 10 steps or 12 steps? Sorry, I might have messed that up, but to reach the higher level of consciousness, you need to go through this step and then this step and then this step and this step. And then you arrive to understanding certain things. And now you've suddenly like reached a new level of consciousness where you're going to go through this step and this step and this step. And you're like, poof, your brain is just like constantly raising the level of your ability to contain what God is saying, to your ability to live life through a different lens. And his steps will actually lead you to a higher level of consciousness. Like he says this. And I in my program, there is the classes that I go to for Mesilat Yesharim because I think it's really important to constantly be learning this. So the classes I go to are free and they're available. They actually should be in a podcast called Bilvavi, Mesilas Yesharim. Look it up.
I
It
just wrote it down.
hopefully, yeah. Um, my teacher, Rhonda Attar, is one of the women who's been on the podcast, and she's phenomenal. So she teaches it on a really practical, beautiful level, and I've learned so much from her. And it all comes back to mastering the higher level of consciousness and not just tasting it, because you're there, but your brain hasn't made it the comfort zone yet. So it looks like this. I'm very visual. So it's like, oh, you're down in the mud and whatever, life stinks. And then suddenly you like get that awakening. You get something that gets you up higher and you're like, wow, look at this. I'm flying. I could see things differently. I can smell things differently. The air quality up here is awesome. You know, it's like just like everything's different. And then your brain is like, but wait, we don't know how to fly. What are we doing here? Nosedive. And your brain will bring you down to comfort level because it just knows how to deal with mud a lot better than how to deal with air and how to deal with flying. And you're like, but I don't want to be in the mud. But somehow you're working against yourself. If we can help the body master a higher level of consciousness, just make this my new norm. Make this safety. Call this safety so that I don't have to constantly go down back to the mud. Because if not, then safety is always mud. I'm always going to have to be blaming someone, shaming someone, being annoyed, throwing mud at everybody, eating mud, looking at mud, talking about mud, you know, like smearing mud everywhere. that's what most people are living as. It's just life. It just gets to you and you get to them, and everybody's just like, ugh, spreading it. When you raise to a higher level, your goal should be to make
Stay
that,
there.
yeah,
Stay there.
make that
Maintain it.
safety. Make
Yeah.
that safety. And then when you're ready, you're going to get the next calling, and it's going to help you move up a level again. So instead of going up and down, up and down, up and down, you're like, your up and downs are sort of like flying in the air, sometimes
Uh-huh.
higher, sometimes lower, but always in the air.
Wow, you really just blew my whole entire mind, and I'm, like, trying to replay, like, the last 2 years of my life in my head and think about, like, where the ups were, where the downs were. Um, but, like, maintaining, like, wow, what a novel idea. Ramchal,
Mm.
thank you.
Yes. Yes. And I love that it's more than maintaining, because maintaining feels like a chore and mastering feels like
Right.
awesome,
Mhm.
right?
That
And
language is definitely more powerful.
yeah. And there's something so amazing. And it's just simple skills, simple skills. Just like connecting to yourself are simple skills. And a lot of us are learning to do that in order to become more authentic with ourselves and getting more in line with what we want and shutting out the outside world, and just being okay. Those are skills that we're learning, and a lot of people are talking about those. Asking for abundance, a skill that we've all been taught pretty much. You know what to do when you look up and ask, right?
Right.
Maybe you don't do it from a very, expert level. Like a lot of people are like, God, I don't know what you want from me, right? So like if you come ready with step one first, you're like, okay, God, here's what I want. Let's find out how it's going to happen. Help me,
Mhm.
show me, guide me. I'm here. Be with me. Let's do this, right? So constantly recentering to what I want and asking for it. These are skills that are attainable. All skills are attainable. Listen for the answer has never been taught. It has
Mhm.
been forgotten. There used to be schools for prophets, right? Prophecy schools where somebody who wanted to receive prophecy, who wanted to become a prophet, would
Mhm.
go and learn to listen. They would learn to slow down. They would play music. They would learn to manage their thoughts. They would learn to shift the direction of their beliefs, their thinking, contain what's happening, be in the moment, like things that really help you listen. And then they would learn to look for the signs. Like our relationship with God is not one way. It's a two-way relationship. It is an actual both sides dialogue. And a lot of people are walking around the world, if they believe in God, they're talking to God and blaming God and screaming at God and screaming for God, but they're never taking the time to look for what the answer is. It's so powerful.
Yeah.
But
I
then
think
once you have the answer, you get to master that.
yeah, I think, well, one thing is, like, kinda what we started off with was, like, learning how to tune into that is, like, a very feminine trait, I think. Would you say? Like, the the Nevi'im needed to step into that. Like, what would you say about that in terms of, like, masculine versus feminine? Do you think that's them? Because they were mostly men, the Nevi'im, like, they would you say they had to connect to their feminine energy to receive prophecy?
That's very interesting. I think it might. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we do have women prophets. It
Mhm.
is a thing.
Yeah, but they were the minority.
It might
There's
no,
no
the
there's no
minority is,
book there's no books about them.
well, it might be that they were just all over the place and it wasn't special.
Right, maybe.
Right? I feel like there, well, we for sure know about a bunch of prophetesses. I don't know if that was the right word. My husband's gonna laugh at me now. Um, but it's definitely a feminine trait that they had to lean into.
Mhm. Just to listen, like, to do that. Just to do that. And, like, also, like, to comprehend that you can do that. Like, that is a thing, you know what I mean? Like, you know that classic story about the guy stranded on an island and he's like, "God send me a sign, God send me like, save me," and he sends a plane and he sends a boat and he's like, "No, like, I'm waiting for God to save me." And God's like,
Mhm.
I sent you all the things." And it's, like, such a classic that would never happen to a woman, you know? Like, that would happen to a man.
Well, I don't know. There is men and women. They all, there are just like you say, like that. All rich people are whatever, and all poor people are like. You can't generalize
I know
anything
you
because
can generalize, but
there's always everything of both.
yeah, and listen, I don't
Um,
think in black and white there's, the whole gray between, but I'm saying, like, just to understand that it's a thing that you can listen, that you can receive an answer. I think that's like, just to comprehend that is a big step.
yeah, when we were dating, our first date, my husband picked me up from work. I was working on Fifth Avenue. He picked me up from work, and we went somewhere out to eat because it was right after work. And even though you're not supposed to go out to eat, whatever, he knew I was going to be hungry. Such a good guy. Anyway, so he took me out to eat and he's like, "Oh, now we have to wait for parking." And I was like, "What's the problem? Just ask God." And he's like, "What? It doesn't work like that." And I very naturally, because, my business connected for real, super connected from forever. That's like my superpower. And I'm also very practical. That's the for real part, right? So like I'm like, "Okay, Hashem, we're looking for parking. We need a spot near this place. Like, please send it to us. We're ready to receive it." And my husband was like, "That doesn't work." Turns around, like his head from "that doesn't work" looking at me to looking straight, and suddenly, right in front of the place we were looking at, whoop, comes out the car, and my husband just like jaw floor. Boom.
That's how it works.
What just happened? And I was like, "Okay, that does not work." And we had this whole theological back and forth, like very rabbinical, like, "Is this allowed? Is it not allowed? Are you supposed to? Blah, blah, blah. Is it normal? Is it not normal?" Or whatever. It's so interesting how it's just it's just the masculine feminine thing, right?
Right.
It's feminine is like, I don't need to be worthy of it. God just loves me. He wants me to be happy. He wants everything to flow. And it's okay for things to work out. And the masculine is like, it has to be like done this way. And this is like very linear, very things have to be a certain way. It's okay. We need both, right? Life is about the combination of both. This is why we have marriages, because it's a very important thing to have both. And ever since then, it's just been like, "Okay, turn on your bitachon button," you know? And we have a little funny joke about it, but like it's changed, it's opened up his mind when he saw it possible. So you're saying most women know it's possible. No, it's not true. Not every woman walking around in the world is thinking, "I just need to slow down," or "I just need to listen to myself." No, it's something that we get to learn. We get to show other women that is possible. It's why I have a podcast, why you have a podcast. We're here to tell other women it is possible, because a lot of people are not aware of it. Right? So it might be obvious to us, but it's not obvious in the world. And the truth is that a lot of men are very aware of it and are trying to
Right.
also spread the
I'm
word.
sorry I misspoke and, like, I made, like, a big generalization, but
No, it's totally fine.
yeah.
I'm just picking on you. I totally
Yeah.
love you. I'm sorry if I made you cool. Well, we're at time, but let's get a little
Great.
bit of like a wrap up. What do you
I
think
learned
a
so much.
person listening now is thinking?
I mean, I'm just like, I have all my notes written down, the work by Katie, the Sparketype quiz. I want to like look at your Missy Lai Sharim teacher.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so
So,
fun.
yeah.
I'm so excited. Now it's like this at the bottom of this show is going to be all the notes, and you guys can go and get all these awesome links too. Um, and if you do, definitely tell me what your spark type is because I'd love to know. By the way, just as like a marriage side point, it helps you accept your husband the way he is. Because once I made my husband take it, and once he said his archetype is a maven and a sage, I was like, "Oh, he teaches in order to understand things deeply." So, he can't teach the same thing more than a couple of times because he'll get tired of it and bored of it, and he won't be able to find anything to go delve into.
Mhm.
So it made sense now. It started like everything started to click. It's not that he's broken, it's that he has a superpower that I wasn't aware of. And it really shifted things.
I'm excited to take it.
Yeah, I'm excited too.
I'll let you know what my type is.
Please do. And everybody listening, you're welcome to send me emails and tell me how, anything that resonates with you. I'm sure that they can get in touch with you also. So let's get into that. How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah. Well, for those on Instagram, it's at Millie DPT, Millie. And you can email me, milliedpt@gmail.com.
Cool.
Yeah,
That's awesome. If you go to my website, connectedforreal.com/guide, you can get the guide to unravel overwhelm. And that is usually the first step to getting out of the mud. If you can unravel overwhelm, you're doing a very good job.
cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with me. This was one of my favorite conversations, actually.
Really? I'm honored. Wow.
Yes, I'll tell you why. Because I'm not in my own house. My throat feels dry and I'm getting over a cold. All the things could go wrong went wrong. And yet, I feel like overcoming those things made it so much more valuable.
And more memorable.
Yeah, for sure for me because I'm like,
Yeah,
"Oh, it was that time I lost internet." Yeah,
yeah.
thank God.
But when you
Thank you so
overcome,
much. Yes, totally, totally. Well,
Thank
thank
you
you
so
for
much. I love
coming.
this.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. You guys, don't forget to come back next week for another amazing episode. And don't forget to be connected for real.